Hello and welcome back to the Sports Sermon. I'm Dylan Staggy.
I'm Jason Gandhi.
I'm Dan Majors.
And I'm John Majors.
And we are back today for more college football previews. Today we've got the Big 12 coming up. So we're going to go through every single team in the Big 12, talk about their offense and defense, give a ceiling and floor for this year, along with a record prediction and an MVP. So let's start off with Baylor. And Dan, tell us what happened to Baylor last year.
They went 7-6 last year, finished 3-6 in the conference, and 7th in the Big 12. Went to the Cactus Bowl and beat Boise State. They returned 13 total starters, 6 on offense, 7 on defense. On offense, they lose Seth Russell, Shock Linwood, Katie Cannon, Ishmael Zamora, and Kyle Fuller. On defense, they lose Avion Edwards, Orion Stewart, and Raekwon Davis. They also have a new head coach in Matt Rule from Temple. So, Jason, what do you think about Baylor?
Well, like you said, they got a new coach, so this new look and pro style will be a shock to the fans, but I think it'll be more effective. It all starts out with figuring out the quarterback situation. Zach Smith wasn't always the best option in the spring, but he's the veteran, while Arizona transfer Anu Solomon and Charlie Brewer are deep in the hunt for the spot. The 1-2 rushing punch of Terrence Williams and JaMycal Hasty should be among the best in the Big 12, but the line has to stay in one piece. There's next to no depth up front, but the starting five should be fine. The Baylor offense will look like it's going in slow motion at times compared to last season, but I think it'll be effective. It's all part of the puzzle. Control the ball, control the game, control the clock, and keep the defense off the field. Defensively, they got a new defensive coordinator in Phil Snow. He's combining with Matt Rule to crank up the production of the defense that, like Dan said, returning 6 starters and 7 of the top 10 tacklers. The secondary depends on the status of suspended safety Trevon Blanchford, who was kept out because his girlfriend accused him of abuse, and not having Orion Stewart around hurts, but the corner situation should be fine. With all that being said, I like what Coach Rule and defensive coordinator Snow are going to do. So I have Baylor going 8-4, finishing 5th in the conference, and their ceiling being 9-3. I think they're going to be pretty close to as good as they can play this year, and that's why I have them 8-4. Their floor being 5-7 if the new coach can't get the offense to roll the way he thinks it will.
Wow, I'm not as high on Baylor this year. With a new coach and not a sure competition at quarterback, I have them going 6-6 this year. They just lose too much on the offensive side with Katie Cannon, Shock Linwood, all of those weapons going down too. Even though the running back and wide receiver situation is still solid, I'm not confident in the line at all. And the defense has a few pieces, but not enough to get it done in this Big 12. I have Baylor going 6-6.
I'm with you there, Dylan. Not real high on Baylor. Too many questions on offense, too many questions on defense. Only 3 starters returning on the defensive side of the ball. Their quarterback situation, I think they'll struggle a little bit, but I think Anu Solomon will be the starter by the beginning of the season. Terrence Williams will be a good running back, but nothing special for them that they're going to need. I have them going 5-7 and 2-7 in conference. I like Matt Rule and what he's doing, but year one will be a struggle.
I think Baylor will be all right this year. Ranked 5th in yards per game last year, but losing Seth Russell will hurt. Like everyone said, Terrence Williams, I think he'll have a big year. KJ Smith, I think he'll be their top guy on the line. I have them at 7-5, 4-5 in the conference, finishing 7th in the Big 12. I think they could do worse if they were in a better Power 5 conference, but Big 12 is kind of weak. So let's move on to Iowa State. Last year they went 3-9, 2-7 in the conference, and finished 9th in the Big 12. They returned 11 total starters, 5 on offense, 6 on defense. On offense, they lose Dondre Daly, Nick Fett, and Brian Bobeck. On defense, they lose Kane Seeley, Jomal Wiltz, Brian Mills, Damon Tucker, and Justin Thomas. So, Jason, what do you think about Iowa State?
Well, now there's no more rotation at the quarterback spot. Jacob Park is the unquestioned main man at quarterback after he threw for 1,791 yards and 12 scores. Getting back all Big 12 star receiver Alan Lazard will be a big help, and now 5 of the top 6 targets are back, along with good pass-catching running backs. So Park's got help in the backfield along with his receivers. But the 1-2 punch of Warren and Montgomery should be fantastic. The two combined for over 1,100 yards, and now they'll handle even more of the workload. 4 starters are gone up front, and they do get back injured starter Jake Campos to the mix. But it'll take a little while before this group starts to gel together. Defensively, they're helped by the addition of JUCO transfer Ray Lima to the interior of the line, but the front four might not be a total disaster. 3 starters are gone, including All-Stars Demon Tucker and Jostin Thomas, and this is going to take a little while to come together. The linebacking core might be pretty good thanks to the emergence of Joel Lanning, who was a quarterback, I think, last year, the year before, and he switched his position to linebacker, and he'll start in the middle. And then in the secondary, it should be the strength of the defense, with 4 starters returning to the 5-man unit, including Kamari Cotton Moya and Everett Edwards, to a great-looking safety situation, but they have to stop the run. They gave up 200 yards rushing 7 times last year, and so if they can stop the run, I think they'll be okay. But I'm not sure they will be okay. I think it's going to be a bad year for Iowa State. I have them hitting their floor of 5-7. I think they'll be 5-7. They're ceiling 7-5, and I have them finishing 8th in the conference. MVP is Alan Lazard, who's 6'5", 223, who's definitely going to be an NFL prospect. He could have gone last year, and he caught 69 passes for 1,018 yards and 7 scores. First team All Big 12, and he should do even more this year.
Yeah, Iowa State, I think, is looking up in the right direction. Last year, 71st, or 71st, not 71th, nationally in offense. But this crew this year has the potential to be one of the best in Iowa State football history. I really like Jacob Park last year, like Jason mentioned, 1791 yards and 12 touchdowns. A 1-2 punch at running back in David Montgomery and Mike Warren and Alan Lazard at wide receiver. There's some pieces on that offensive side that I really like. And then on the defensive side, 3 JUCO transferred defensive linemen in Matt Leo, Ray Lima, and Camilo Tangamoa. Linebacker is a concern, but like Jason mentioned, the secondary is going to be really good this year. If they can put it all together, I think Iowa State could come up with a 7-5 record. If everything goes wrong, though, and these guys don't mesh well together, I think 4-8 could happen for Iowa State. But I'm going to say 5-7. I think they could do better, especially if these guys gel, but they have a tough non-conference game versus Iowa and a few winnable Big 12 games on the road in Texas Tech, West Virginia, Baylor, and Kansas State. So I don't think they get any of those games, making their record only 5-7.
I agree with Dylan. They definitely have potential to go 5-7, but I have them going a little bit lower than that. They had the 102nd best defense last year overall. That's unacceptable. They really need to change that. The Big 12 is not really known for their defense. It's known for scoring points. They have a very young offensive line. If they play well this season, look for Jacob Park to carry them. Also, I have them going 3-9 and 1-8 in conference. Just year 2 for Matt Campbell. If they can really play well, I can see them going 5-7, but I have them going 3-9.
Yeah, they return all their offensive threats. John mentioned their offensive line, only returning 1 guy and a grad transfer from Michigan. Ranked 61st in points per game. That would be worse in a different conference. Kamari Cotton Moya on defense, I think will have a good year. 73 tackles, 5 pass breakups, and 2 picks last year. So I have them at 3-9, 1-8 in the conference, finishing 9th in the Big 12, and getting 1 win over Kansas in the Big 12 conference. So let's move on to Kansas now. As last year they went 2-10, 1-8 in the conference, and finished last in the Big 12. They returned 13 total starters, 8 on offense, 5 on defense. On offense, key losses include Montel Cozart, Keon Kenner, and Shaquille Barbell. On defense, they lose Fish Smithson, Courtney Arnick, and Tevin Shaw. So, Jason, what do you think about the Jayhawks?
So they have a new offensive coordinator in Doug Meacham, who's in after spending the last few years helping crank up the TCU offense. But first things first, they have to find a quarterback. JUCO transfer Peyton Bender is battling with late-season starter Carter Stanley, but fortunately the receivers are in place to make this whole air raid thing go. With Steven Sims, one of the Big 12's most productive targets, LaQuivante Gonzalez, a solid number 2, and Alabama transfer Dalen Charlo to help add more pop to the explosive passing game. There's hope for the running game, though, too, with Khalil Herbert, a dangerous-looking speedster with the potential to hit the occasional home run. but they have to stop turning the ball over. And I know that seems like everyone's problem, but Kansas gave away 2 or more turnovers in every game. Going back to 2015, Kansas turned the ball over twice or more in 19 of their last 20 games. So they have to stop turning the ball over because that's what's really killing their offense. Defensively, it just needs more playmakers, more takeaways, and more production overall. There might be some good pieces, but there aren't enough around them, and there's not enough of them. However, there were some bright spots to build around. The stars up front with Dorrance Armstrong, one of the nation's best pass rushers. He's a tweener who can stop the run, but he's at his best when he gets in the backfield. With him on the outside and Daniel Wise in the interior, the Jayhawks have 2 big all Big 12 talents to start with. At linebacker, at safety, Mike Lee is a strong do-it-all safety, and JUCO transfer Hassan Defense is a great-looking corner. And as long as the pass rush can keep things rolling, the secondary should be fine. But the big thing with Kansas has been stopping the run. Kansas allowed 200 rushing yards or more in 9 of the 11 games against FBS teams, and in 20 of its last 22 games against them over the last 2 years. So really, it's not turning the ball over and stopping the run on defense. I have Kansas going 2-10. Their floor 1-11, ceiling 4-8. There's just not much they can do yet, but I think they're building something down in Kansas.
Yeah, I think Kansas has a few pieces to start to build around. The quarterback situation with Carter Stanley or Peyton Bender, I think they got to decide on one and just roll with them. They got a couple running backs, like Jason mentioned, Khalil Herbert and Taylor Martin, and a couple receivers in Steven Sims Jr. and LaQuivante Johnson, who combined for about 1,500 receiving yards last year. 2 big pieces on the defensive line, too. Dorrance Armstrong Jr., 10 sacks last year, and Daniel Wise, a first-team All-Big 12 selection by Pro Football Focus. The secondary is a concern, so I don't really see Kansas winning a Big 12 game this year. I have them at 2-10. In terms of their non-conference, they're within 20 spots of Central Michigan and Ohio in Athlon's preseason rankings. I think they get one of those two. Won't get a big game in the Big 12 this year because at the end of last year, we know they stole the game from Texas. Texas had a down year. But at the end of this season, I don't think they can catch a team like that because they have a better Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State to end the year.
Yeah, I'm not real high on Kansas either. I have them going 3-9, 0-9 conference. I think they win all of their non-conference games, but lose all of their conference games. I really like Dorrance Armstrong. He's a really good defensive end, good pro prospect. They were the 120th best scoring offense, which really needs to improve, especially for a Big 12 school where they're known for scoring points. Peyton Bender, I believe he can pick up where he left off as a transfer. Also, I like Steven Sims Jr. Could be a good threat at the wide receiver spot. But yeah, I'm not real high on Kansas. They could pull an upset like they did last year, but I'm not really seeing it.
Yeah, not high on Kansas either. 122nd in points per game last year, 120th in points allowed. Lose quarterback and top running back, and also lose 3 out of the top 4 tacklers. So I have them at 2-10, 0-9 in the conference, and finishing last in the Big 12. So let's move on to Kansas State. Last year went 9-4, 6-3 in the conference, and finishing 4th in the Big 12. They returned 14 total starters, 8 on offense, 6 on defense. On offense, they lose Deontay Burton, Charles Jones, and Terrell Johnson. On defense, they lose Elijah Lee. Not even going to try and pronounce that first name. Moore, Dante Barnett, and Jordan Willis. So, Jason, what do you think about Kansas State?
Yeah, so I like Jesse Ertz. He's going to have a nice line in front of him and a good blocking tight end in Dayton Valentine. They'll have no issue getting third down conversions. They lost their top running back, like Dan said, Charles Jones, but I think there's more effective backs waiting in the wings. The offensive line should be a focal point of this team. They were great last season. Now they'll be a dominant force with 4 starters back, and it was a group that was considered way too young, but it's going to be phenomenal this year with all-stars Reed Najvar at center and Dalton Reisner at 1 tackle spot. It's going to be a major plus and give Ertz more time to do his thing as he's a dual-threat QB. Defensively, Dan said it already, they lost both of their phenomenal linebackers in Elijah Lee and Charmichelle Moore. Fortunately, the defensive front four should be a killer around Will Gary on the inside and Reggie Walker on the outside. Secondary needs to tighten up a bit, but it's got an all-star in DJ Reed an excellent safety in Kendall Adams, but they just need to make up for Dante Burnett. I have them going 8-4, partly due to their easy schedule, but I have them at 8-4, finishing 4th in the conference, and I think their MVP, like I said, is Jesse Ertz. He had a strong season last year, had 58% of his throws, 1,755 yards, 9 touchdowns, threw only 4 picks, and ran for 12 more. He's one of the best all-around QBs in the league, so I like Jesse Ertz. And, yeah, I think if worst came to worst, they'd fall 6-6 just because of that schedule.
Yeah, I also like Jesse Ertz this season. 9-4 record last year for Kansas State, where Ertz threw for 1,755 yards and also ran for 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. At running back, Kansas State has Alex Barnes and Justin Silman. Barnes had 7.9 yards per rush last year, so a couple guys there that could really help in the backfield. Reggie Walker with 39 tackles and 6.5 sacks as a freshman. He'll improve a lot and be really nice this season. 3 linebackers moving on, though, this year for Kansas State. A bunch of playing time there. If they can fill that well, I think that will definitely be an X factor on this team. And some experience in the secondary with DJ Reed and Duke Shelley back at corner and Kendall Adams at safety. I also have Kansas State with an 8-4 record this year.
I also have them going 8-4. Ever since 2012 in their breakout season, they have been very, very good. They had the 11th best rush defense last year, and I think they'll pick up where they left off. Jesse Ertz, as you guys all said, is a very good quarterback. Big guy, can really throw the ball. And, yeah, I think their defense is going to carry them to an 8-4 record, 5-4 in conference.
I'm a big fan of this Kansas State team. I like their offense with Ertz as a top 3 to 5 quarterback in the Big 12. Pringle will have a good year at receiver. Barnes will have a good year at running back. Great tight ends in Winston DeMel and Dayton Valentine. And a great offensive line led by stud center in Reed Navarre. On defense, probably the best in the Big 12, which really is not hard to do. Ranked 33rd in points per game last year. I think DJ Reed, Will Geary, and Reggie Walker will have a big year. So I have them at 9-3, 6-3 in the conference, finishing 5th in the Big 12, and losing to Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. So let's move on to the Oklahoma Sooners. Finished 11-2 last year, 9-0 in the conference, and won the Big 12. Lost to Houston and Ohio State in their non-conference schedule. Then went on to beat Auburn in the Sugar Bowl. They returned 16 total starters, 9 on offense, 7 on defense. Lose most of their offensive threats in Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, and Dede Westbrook. Key losses on defense include Jordan Evans, Amon Thomas, Austin Roberts, and Jordan White. And they also get a new head coach in Lincoln Riley to replace Bob Stoops. So, Jason, what do you think about the Sooners?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest part of Oklahoma is life after Bob Stoops. He's been there forever, and now young guy Lincoln Riley has to come in and hopefully try to shore up this team. I think they'll be okay with how much talent they have, but it was just kind of out of the blue, Bob Stoops retiring. But Baker Mayfield has been a regular on the Heisman circuit, and this year he should be right there again. I think he's going to have a good year, even with all the losses. This might be the year of the quarterback across college football with a whole slew of superstar pro prospects on display. But Mayfield could end up being the best one in college. So I think he's definitely going to be in the Heisman conversation. Rodney Anderson, if he can stay healthy, he should be terrific. And they've also got a fullback in Dimitri Flowers who will be among the nation's best blocking backs. Mark Andrews is a big-time talent at tight end / receiver. He's kind of a big receiver, though, if he goes out wide. While the rest of the receiving corps is young, underutilized veterans and transfers, and they just kind of need to gel together. Fortunately, Mayfield and the Oklahoma offensive style will make the wide receiver stronger. Baker's good at getting other people involved, so I don't think it'll be a long getting to know each other process. The line should be phenomenal, as they have at least 4 blockers who will earn all-star honors. There's depth, experience, and a whole bunch of talent. So offensively, I think Oklahoma's cooking. Defensively, it'll be versatile. That'll use hybrid Ogbonia Okoronkwo as both a pass rushing end, and he'll easily be a strength of defense, and he'll also be at a linebacker spot depending on the opponent. The pressure in the backfield is going to have to come from all sides. Can't just be him. They've got Jordan Thomas at one corner, a terrific group of safeties, and the secondary is going to be a stud this year. There might be times when the defensive backs get bombed on, but they do play in the Big 12, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. And yeah, I mean, I think I like Oklahoma a lot more than some people. I have them at 11-1. I think they beat Ohio State week 2, but then lose to Texas in the Red River rivalry. I like what Oklahoma's doing. I think Lincoln Riley's going to come in and keep the train rolling. I just think Texas beats him in the battle of the new coaches. I think Herman knows what he's doing and just has that one leg. And obviously, I think the MVP is Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I don't know. This year with Oklahoma, they're just losing too much on the offensive side. With Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, and Dede Westbrook all gone, they had a combined 2,435 rushing yards and 2,168 receiving yards last year. Obviously, you do bring back Baker Mayfield, though, and 5 offensive line starters. The defense will be solid again. Jordan Thomas and Jordan Parker might be the best set of corners in the conference, and Ogbonya Okoronkwo and Caleb Kelly return as the outside linebackers. But this year for Oklahoma, I see them taking a step back. They could finish anywhere from 11-1 to 9-3, but I think they finish 9-3, losing to Ohio State, Oklahoma State, and Texas. All 3 of those basically road games, with Texas being in Dallas. So I don't think they make the Big 12 championship either, with Texas getting the tiebreaker when they beat Oklahoma. I don't see them making the Big 12 championship.
I really like this Oklahoma team. I like Baker Mayfield. He has a swagger and passion when he plays. He reminds me a lot of Johnny Manziel in his playing style. As you guys said, all 5 of the offensive linemen return. I like Baker Mayfield's biggest target this year is going to be Mark Andrews, his tight end. Look for him to have a breakout season. I like Oklahoma's defense. Caleb Kelly was a 5-star out of high school, had a decent season last year, but he's going to break out this year. Look for the defense to step up. Oklahoma had the 3rd best scoring offense and the 2nd best overall offense last year. They're going to do the same this year. I have them going 10-2 and 8-1 in conference, and I have them winning the Big 12. But the only reason they have 2 losses is because of their run game. I just don't really see the run game being the same without Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon in the group. So, yeah, look for Oklahoma to really have a good year.
I kind of like Oklahoma, kind of don't. A little mixed on this one. They might sound good returning 9 starters, but losing 3 offensive threats, except for Baker Mayfield, I think that will hurt them big time. Mixon, Perine, and Westbrook, they were all huge last year, combined for over 3,000 yards. Definitely the best offensive line in the Big 12, I'll give them that. Ranked 63rd in points allowed last year, ranked 1 to 13th in passing yards allowed. I think Jordan Thomas and Stephen Parker will have to figure that out in the secondary. So I have them at 10-2, 8-1 in the conference, finishing. I have them winning the Big 12 and losing to Ohio State and Oklahoma State. I just want to make this clear, though. The Big 12, I think, is the weakest conference and out of the Power 5. I'm not a big fan of Oklahoma this year, but I still have them winning the conference. I think they're about to be on the decline, go downhill like Texas did about this past decade. So let's move on to Oklahoma State. Last year going 10-3, 7-2 in the conference, finishing 2nd in the Big 12. Went on to the Alamo Bowl to beat Colorado. They returned 12 total starters, 7 on offense, 5 on defense. On offense, they lose Jawan Seals and Blake Jarwin. On defense, they lose Jordan Stearns, Devontae Averett, Jordan Burton, and Vincent Taylor. So, Jason, what do you think about Oklahoma State?
I love Oklahoma State this year. The air show should be something fun to watch with Mason Rudolph and James Washington returning. Those 2 should be in the NFL, but they stayed, so they will be forming an unstoppable duo. They hooked up 71 times for 1,300 yards, almost 1,400, and 10 touchdowns, averaging 20 yards per connection. And they have Jalen McCluskey returning as the team's leading receiver. There are just more options for Rudolph to play with, too. It's just unbelievable how many receivers he's got. The ground game won't just be along for the ride. Justice Hill's coming back with a 1,100-yard season, 6-score freshman season. He had a shoulder problem in this offseason he's trying to recover from, But if he has a solid line, so if he gets healthy, all the starters who began last season should return on the line, so that'll be helpful. Defensively, Chad Whitener leads a linebacking core that should be active against the run, but probably won't do too much behind the line. That's for the defensive front with a great group of ends that have to shine around new starting defensive tackles. The secondary is very shaky. We really don't know what we're getting with them. Mike Gundy was on First Take last week, and he said that he thinks they have a shot to win the Big 12 if they just stay healthy and get a few balls to bounce their way. I agree with him. I think that health is a big key to this because they don't have much depth. But if they stay healthy, I think they could go 10-2, and that's really their ceiling. I think that their floor 7-5 if everything goes wrong. I like them at 9-3, finishing second and going to the first ever Big 12 championship. I just like what they're doing down there. I love Mason Rudolph, and we'll get into that later about when we get to pro prospect. But I really like Rudolph, and he's just so accurate. He has hit 63% of his passes with only 4 picks. You can't. A lot of guys, when they get into the NFL, you see accuracy issues, but I think Rudolph's going to be a stud in the NFL, and I just like what he's doing down in Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph last year, 4,091 yards and 28 touchdowns, and like Jason said with the accuracy, only 4 interceptions last year, and he brings back James Washington, also a great NFL prospect, 19.4 yards per catch last year and 70 receptions, 26 touchdown catches through the first 3 seasons. Also, the ground game is going to be nice with Justice Hill back, 1,142 yards last year. That was the top FBS freshman, and he won Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. So the offense is going to be absolutely fantastic, unstoppable. And the defense, I think, will do just enough to hold up. The defensive line should be a strength. Chad Whitener and Trey Flowers back on the defensive side. So I have Oklahoma State finishing 11-1 this year. I think they get it done with a favorable schedule and win the Big 12.
Did you guys watch the interview with Mike Gundy on ESPN?
Uh-huh.
Definitely best hair in the Big 12.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah. I love the mullet. It just makes headlines
Millions
all
of
the
dollars
time.
for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, he's looking good, and he's going to help this team out a lot. I like Mason Rudolph, like you guys said. James Washington, best receiver in the country. Their only thing that I'm not real high on is their run game. If they get their running game going with Justice Hill, they could be unstoppable. But I have them going 10-2 and 7-2 in conference, and they do not make the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, you guys mentioned their offense, maybe the best in the Big 12. On defense, though, ranking 102nd in yards allowed. There's a lot of key guys. There's 4 out of the top 7 tacklers, so I'm not a big fan of their defense. So I have them at 9-3, 6-3 in the conference, and finishing 4th in the Big 12. So let's move on to the TCU Horned Frogs. So last year they went 6-7, 4-5 in the conference, and finished 5th in the Big 12 conference. Went on to the Liberty Bowl to beat Georgia. They returned 17 total starters, 10 on offense, 7 on defense. That is tied for the most in the Big 12. On offense, really no key losses at all. On defense, key losses, Denzel Johnson, Aaron Curry, Josh Carraway, and James McFarland. So, Jason, what do you think about the Horned Frogs?
I think they're going to be average. I don't hate them. I think they're going to be okay. It's really up to Kenny Hill to make everything work. He played terribly at Texas A&M, but also had flashes. And it's just kind of what are you getting in him, and that's really where I think TCU's really going to depend on is just Kenny Hill, and that's why I think they're going to be average just because I don't know what we're getting. He ran for 10 scores, but he threw so many interceptions, missed so many third down conversions, and just they could not get many points on the board last year. Kyle Hicks I like as a running back to help take the pressure off. The receiving corps is potentially deadly with Sean Nixon coming back after his knee injury and with Taj Williams, and they get the top 7 pass catchers back. I really like their offense, but like I said, the X Factor's got to be Kenny Hill, and that's really all it comes down to for the Horned Frogs. Defensively, the D was very soft against the runs, uncharacteristically miserable on third downs, and ended up failing to come through in situations where usually the TCU defense would rise up and dominate. Ranthony Tejada, Nick Orr, and Nico Small, and the defensive back should be good. Everyone gets bombed on in the Big 12, but the 5-man secondary and the 4-2-5 alignment has the experience and should be stronger, but they don't have much of a pass rush. But I think the way that they line up their defense is huge because that allows their defensive backs to really get some turnovers and hopefully make some noise. Like I said, average, I think. There could be really bad, they could be really good. I have them at 6-6 just because I really don't know. I don't think they could be any better than 9-3 if Kenny Hill shows the potential he's flashed sometimes. But I also don't think they can be much worse than 4-8, 5-7 if he plays terribly. So I just stuck it at 6-6 because I really just don't know with Kenny Hill.
Yeah, Kenny Hill, kind of an up and down guy all the time, very inconsistent. And last year, like Jason mentioned, 13 interceptions. The wide receivers didn't help him out much either. Leading wide receiver last year had 39 catches and 38 drops by the TCU wide receivers last year. A lot of depth at running back, though, with Kyle Hicks, Sean Nixon, Darius Anderson, and Siwo Alanula. Those guys should be able to carry the running game, but the question is, can they get the pass game going? On the defensive side, a new crop of pass rushers. Those guys are young, not really going to contribute a lot yet. The Big 12's leading tackler, Travin Howard, comes back after back-to-back 100-tackle seasons. A lot of veterans at the linebacker position. And Ranthony Tejada and Julius Lewis at the cornerback positions. 36 starts between them. But TCU just not enough talent, I think, on the offensive side. I don't think they'll be able to get the pass game going enough. And I have them finishing 7-5.
I'm a little higher on TCU. I like that they have experience on both sides of the ball, and I like their coach, Gary Patterson. He's done a great job over there. Kenny Hill, I think he'll have a good season, but nothing special, but I think he can carry them. I have them going 9-3 and 6-3 in conference. Also look out for Kevontae Turpin, their kick returner and punt returner. He's an electric guy, one of the fastest players in the country. He will pick up where he left off in the previous years in returning the ball. But yeah, I think Kenny Hill will take them to a 9-3 record. Losses coming to at Oklahoma State, at Kansas State, and at Oklahoma.
I'm with John on this one. I like TCU. Saw last year that Boykin would be missed, but I think now they know how to deal without him. Kyle Hicks, like Dylan said, one of the best running backs in the Big 12. On defense, 51st in points allowed. That's pretty solid, honestly, for a Big 12 team. Travin Howard and Ty Summers, two of the best linebackers in the Big 12. Defensive backfield looks good with Nick Orr, who had 4 picks last year. Nico Small with 9 pass breakups, and Anthony Taxada with 7. Only true problem, defensive line, really. So I have them at 9-3, 7-2 in the conference, finishing second in the Big 12, losing to Arkansas, Kansas State, and Oklahoma. I think Gary Patterson will turn them around in his 17th year. So let's move on. Right?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't get behind Kenny Hill and just like being confident he's gonna be able to do anything. But at the same time, like I love what Gary Patterson's done. Like with Andy Dalton, I remember like that year when they had Andy Dalton and they had that good win over Wisconsin. Like Gary Patterson obviously knows what he's doing, but I guess like I'm just concerned about Kenny Hill. But I don't know. Like you and John are higher than I am, and Dylan is too. But like I don't know. Like why are you guys confident in Kenny Hill that he can get the job done? I guess.
They're lethal on offense. Kenny Hill, I'm going to take the risk in him. He had a few good games at Texas A&M, a few bad games. I think he wants to show something this year, so I think he'll have a good season.
Yeah, he's got a year under his belt. I think with 10 guys returning, that'll help a lot, too.
Just confidence, consistency, and like comfortability type thing. I got you.
I just don't see Kenny Hill being able to step up and be the next Andy Dalton or Trevon Boykin at the TCU.
No, yeah. No, I was just wondering because you guys are very like, higher than I am, and I was just wondering like, why you guys had confidence. That makes sense though with having a year and all those returners. Yeah. All right.
So let's move on to Texas, as last year had a down year, going 5-7, 3-6 in the conference, and finishing 8th in the Big 12. Returned 17 total starters, 7 on offense, 10 on defense. That is tied for the most in the Big 12. Key losses on offense: Deontay Foreman, Tyrone Swoops, and Ja'Cory Warwick. On defense, they lose Dylan Haynes and also get a new head coach in Tom Herman. So, Jason, what do you think about Texas this year?
Well, it's going to be up to offensive coordinator Beck and head coach Herman to finally give the Texas offense a little consistency for a program that dealt with a revolving door at offensive coordinator for the last several years. Dan, you already highlighted it, how they've really been in a struggling time these last few years, and you think Oklahoma's going to go down there. But I think Texas now is coming out of it. Of course, the main man in the attack isn't around anymore with Deontay Foreman getting drafted. 2,000-yard back. I love his game. But they've got Chris Warren to help try to really replace him and just be as effective. But they've got a good rotation around him if it doesn't work out. 4 starters are back up front, and they have an improving line to help pave the way. Almost all of the top receivers are back, though, which is nice, and it should be really explosive under this new staff. But the coaches just need to acknowledge what everyone knows, that Shane Buechele is a starter, and he's going to be terrific. Coaches haven't officially said Buechele is going to be the quarterback. They said there's a quarterback. It's where everyone's got a fair shot and all that good stuff. But we all think it's going to be Buechele, and it'd be a shock if he wasn't. 9 of the top 10 and 13 of the top 15 tacklers are back. So I just think that the defense is going to be fine. I love Malik Jefferson. I love him as the defense really anchor that. But it's going to come down to what they did last year, where Charlie Strong could not get this defense to stop them. The defense allowed 200 yards or more 17 times. And under Herman at Houston, they allowed more than 156 rushing yards twice in the last 2 seasons. And one was against Navy last year. So hopefully Herman can get these Texas players to really lock down. But either way, even if he can't, Texas has enough just raw talent because of the name, where Houston didn't have that. And he got those guys to believe and really buy in. Now that you've got all this just raw talent and a great coach in Tom Herman, I like what the Longhorns are building. I think their ceiling's 9-3 this year. Their floor 6-6. I like them going right at 8-4. A successful season, finishing 3rd in the conference and upsetting Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. And obviously, I think the MVP is Shane Buechele.
Yeah, Shane Buechele, he's got to be the guy this year, and if he plays well, Texas will play well. Chris Warren in the backfield, receiver, they got their top guys back, like Jason mentioned, and Colin Johnson, Devin DuVernay, Armonte Foreman, and Gerard Hurd. An offensive line with 4 returning starters, and Tom Herman has a great track record with offenses. A national title in 2014 with a 3rd-string quarterback in Cardale Jones, 22-4 with 38.2 points per game in the past 2 seasons at Houston. Texas should have a big year on the offensive side. On the defense, two of the worst defenses in school history under Charlie Strong, 30.3 points per game in 2015 and 31.5 last year. But still a lot of talent on this defensive side for Texas. A lot of guys with a lot of potential that I don't think Charlie Strong got the most out of. I see Tom Herman getting more out of those guys. And so I think this year Texas could finish anywhere from 10-2 to, if everything kind of falls apart, 7-5. But I have them at 9-3, and they make the Big 12 championship because they beat Oklahoma. And Texas is just a huge upset candidate for both of the top 2 teams in this Big 12, with Oklahoma basically a home game in Dallas and then a home game against Oklahoma State. I really like Texas this year.
Yeah, Texas has a lot of potential this season, especially with their coach Tom Herman, a great head coach, did a great job over in Houston. They have a very young team. They want to prove something. They also have a very, very, very tough schedule at USC, Oklahoma State, at TCU, at West Virginia, and, of course, Oklahoma and the Red River rivalry. One thing you guys forgot to mention, Malik Jefferson is an absolute stud. He'll be a first-round talent for sure. So I think Texas will go 8-4 and 6-3 in conference. They definitely have the potential to go 10-2, maybe even 11-1 if Shane Buechele plays really well.
Yeah, I'm high on Texas. Also, really the only key, I think, is replacing Deontay Foreman. Chris Warren, I think he will do a fine job, as he averaged 5.9 yards per carry last year, and I think he could be a top 5 running back in the Big 12. Receiving core, I think, is very well rounded with Foreman, DuVernay, and Leonard. Buechele, like Jason said, will have a great year. I think they have the 2nd best offensive line in the Big 12 behind Oklahoma. Defense, I think, will be fine, led by Malik Jefferson. Poona Ford and Chris Nelson, I think they'll do great on the defensive line. So I have them at 9-3, 6-3 in the conference, finishing 3rd in the Big 12, and have a definite shot at the Big 12 title. I think Tom Herman is a great coach. I think he will turn this program around. Some interesting stats I've seen on him is Herman has never lost a game against a top 25 team. He is 6-0 versus top 25 and 3-0 versus the top 10, and has never lost a home game or a neutral site game. All losses have come in conference and on the road.
Wow.
So I think this year they will make a turnaround, and in 3 to 5 years down the line, I think they could be what they used to be.
My only question before we go to the next team is, though, like, I get all those stats and everything, but if you remember, it wasn't too long ago that everyone thought Charlie Strong was going to be the guy, and he was going to turn it around. Like, it wasn't like Charlie Strong we knew was going to be bad. Like, everyone thought he was the savior from Louisville. Like, obviously those stats help, but, like, why do we think that Herman's going to be able to get the job done?
I think Tom Herman's a lot better recruiter. He did a great job over Houston, getting a guy like Ed Oliver to stay and play for a team like Houston.
Yeah.
I just think he's going to bring in really good guys and turn this program around.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at Teddy Bridgewater when he did it, Louisville, and then Charlie Strong left, and you're like, that's a pretty good I don't know, like, I agree Herman's going to do a good job. It's just, like, concerning, like we saw this with Charlie Strong. Is it going to be the same cycle of just coaches that have big names but don't actually get the job done? Because we've seen that a lot in Texas, and we don't really see them getting for the right guy, usually the big name guy. But I think Herman fits both. I just didn't know what you guys thought.
Yeah, I think Herman going to Houston, maybe a lower profile school, and still getting the job done there. And we saw Louisville survive without Charlie Strong. Now they're still going strong over there in the ACC. I see Tom Herman doing a better job.
Yeah, I don't know. Is anyone have any concerns with Herman? Or are you guys all believers?
I'm a believer.
As of now, I'm a believer.
All right, yeah. I thought it was a question that should be, like, brought up because we saw it with Charlie Strong. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a great coach. I love what he did in Houston.
And at Ohio State, did a great
Yeah,
job over
yeah.
there.
All right, let's move on to Texas Tech. Last year went 5-7, finished 3-6 in the conference, and was 6th in the Big 12. They returned 13 total starters, 7 on offense, 6 on defense. He lost on offense Patrick Mahomes, Jonathan Giles, and Balin Brown. On defense, they lose Malik Jenkins, Justice Nelson, Luke Slice, and Chris Williams. So, Jason, what do you think about the Red Raiders?
So they got Nick Shimonek to lead the pack of options, who leads the pack of options to take over the reins at the quarterback spot after losing Patrick Mahomes, one of the most explosive quarterbacks in college football. The top 4 receivers are back, all of them catching at least 50 passes and 7 touchdowns. DeLeon Ward and the top 3 running backs return and have to carry the load more that Mahomes is gone. And Mahomes really did a good portion of running as he liked to scramble and do his own thing. The line needs a little shuffling after allowing just 14 sacks, but 3 decent starters are back. Last year, the defense was anything but good. The defensive front needs an overhaul, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The interior will get most of the attention early on in an attempt to slow down the run, but the linebacking corps should be terrific if Jordan Brooks and Colin Hill come up with big years. The secondary that got ripped to shreds came into the offseason with an attitude, hopefully trying to learn to stop somebody, and by design, the goal is to come up with more big plays, more interceptions, and just more stops. I think it's 1 year too soon for the Red Raiders. Shimonek needs a year under his belt. I like him at 5-7, ceiling 7-5, and the floor 3-9.
Yeah, I'm not high on Texas Tech this year. Shimonek, I don't think he really gets it done enough. I think the passing game will still be solid, though, with 3 of the top 4 receivers coming back. The running game and the offensive line is a huge concern, though. Both of those really need to step up this year if they want to have all-around good offense. And like Jason said, the defense is absolutely terrible. Last in the nation in total defense and scoring defense last year. Jordan Brooks does come back, though, who had 86 tackles and 5 for loss last year as a freshman. The secondary, hopefully they're motivated enough to come back and do something. They do have some new talent, but I don't think they can really get it done this season. I see 5-7 in the future for Texas Tech.
Yeah, statistically they had the worst defense and the best offense in the country. I just don't think the defense will change, but I do think the offense will take a step back this season, losing Patrick Mahomes, just losing too many guys on that offensive side of the ball. Look for Justin Stockton to have a good season at running back, but at the quarterback spot, that's their main guy who's going to really help the offense flow. I have them going 4-8 and 3-6 in conference. I have them losing early in non-conference to Arizona State and at Houston. I just don't think they're going to be anything special this year, especially in the Big 12.
Yep. Basically what you guys said. Defense is terrible. Offense, they looked good last year, but with Mahomes and Giles gone, they will go down. Really on defense, to quote Zach Munson, they are trash. So, I have them at 4-8, 2-7 in the conference, finishing 8th in the Big 12, and getting wins over Kansas and Iowa State. So let's move on to our last team in West Virginia. Last year going 10-3, finishing 7-2 in the conference and 3rd in the Big 12. They went to the Russell Athletic Bowl and lost to Miami. They returned 8 total starters, 5 on offense, 3 on defense. That is the least in the Big 12 and 127th in the country. On offense, they lose Skylar Howard, Tyler Orlowski, Adam Pankey, Sheldon Gibson, and Dakel Shorts. On defense, Justin Arndt, Gerard Harper, Rasul Douglas, Darren Howard, and Noble Nwachukwuo. So, John, what do you think about West Virginia this year?
I love the Mountaineers this season. I really do. And it's mostly because of a guy, Will Greer. Last year they went 10-3, but they now actually have a quarterback that can throw the ball and run this offense perfectly. Will Greer was a stud over at Florida. Florida has not had a consistent quarterback since Tim Tebow was there. And Will Greer, before he got suspended, was 5-0 as a starter and was really good. And he has a cannon for an arm and can run. He will fit this offense perfectly. I think he will do a great job. Also, look for a sleeper at the wide receiver spot. David Sills, that was his favorite target in the spring game. They connected all the time, and look for that to be a good connection throughout the season. Justin Crawford's a great running back. I love his style of play. Fast guy, can really go downhill and make some plays. Yeah, I've got West Virginia going 10-2 and 7-2 in the conference, and they will play for the Big 12 championship game.
What do you know? John likes those transfer quarterbacks. Every episode we have a new transfer quarterback.
Stud.
Same thing with Max Brown, and who was the other one that he likes in the Pac-12? Who was it? Pac-12.
They were Pac-12.
Yeah.
Blake Barnett.
Blake Barnett, that's right.
And for North Carolina.
Malik Zaire.
No,
that was Florida. That's Florida. Yeah.
Brandon Harris.
Brandon
Harris.
Harris.
6-6.
Yeah, he didn't.
I have Arizona State going 8-4. Like that's like.
Yeah, but
Just wait till Florida.
oh my god.
Florida's realistic.
Yeah, they actually are.
No, it's not.
West Virginia. This is boom or bust.
Florida's gonna get destroyed by Michigan week 1,
That's
but
false.
it
That
is.
Will Greer.
You'll see.
Did you see Will Greer play at Florida?
Yes,
Okay, so what makes you think he will not succeed at West Virginia?
he played 5 games.
Yeah.
That's not enough to tell me that he's going to lead a
He
team
went
10-2.
undefeated at Florida. Was a consistent quarterback, and they have not had that since Tim.
That's
Tebow.
fine. He just took a year off because he was too busy juicing instead of playing football.
Yeah, so he's ready to go. He's big,
Because he
strong,
has juice
good.
now.
Yeah, he's good.
No, I'm not buying it. I mean, I don't think it'll be bad, but I don't buy the hype. I think Skylar Howard's gonna be a big loss, and I think Rasul Douglas on the other side. He was a star cornerback, and obviously his NFL talent is he's there now. I think I like Justin Crawford, but really I just have him 7-5. I think they'll have an okay year, floor 6-6, ceiling 9-3, but the ceiling is not realistic. But I don't know. I don't think they're gonna have that good of a year. I have them finishing 6th in the Big 12 at 7-5, and I just think they're gonna be average. I think Will Greer will have an average season, and it'll be an average team overall.
They were a quiet 10-3 last year. Now they actually have a quarterback.
Skylar Howard was fine last year.
He struggled throwing the ball down the field. He could.
Will Greer struggled staying on the field. I'd rather have a guy that can't throw the ball down the field but can
Will
actually
Greer will
play.
stay on the field. He's good. He will have a good season.
I'm not too confident.
Yeah, I'm not high on West Virginia either. I also have a 7-5 record. Just too many questions on the defensive side. They got to replace a lot of guys. Questions on the offensive line, and they have to replace Shelton Gibson and Dakel Shorts at receiver. They do have some talent though on Karan White, the brother of Kevin White, and Gary Jennings and Marcus Sims. So if they put everything together, I see maybe 9-3, but I say 7-5.
4-10-2.
No.
I'll give it to John that Will Greer, I think he will have a good year, but I don't see him making up for only 8 returning starters. So that's really my reasoning. So I have them at 8-4, 5-4 in the conference, finishing 6th in the Big 12. So let's move on to our surprise team of the year. Jason, you want to go first?
Mine's Texas. I'm just a big fan of Tom Herman and what he's doing with the recruits that naturally are going to go to Texas. I think he's going to have more talent than people think because it's still Texas. It's not Houston anymore. Big name, big recruits. I think Herman gets the job done. Leads to an 8-4 record.
Yeah, I have Texas also, and also Oklahoma State. I have both of those teams playing for the Big 12 championship.
My surprise team is West Virginia. They'll play for the Big 12 championship game.
No, they won't.
I like Texas. I think Herman will give them a huge turnaround with 17 returning starters. But I also want to make it clear, I think the Big 12 is so up for grabs. Oklahoma, Texas, TCU, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State, I think they all have a case for winning the conference.
I think it's between 3 of those 5. I see Oklahoma State, and Texas. I don't know. I think
I
think Kansas State's
Yeah,
1
West
year
Virginia.
away, and I think TCU. I just don't trust Kenny Hill. If Kenny Hill plays well, I agree with you. I don't trust it, so that's why I have those 3. I think Oklahoma State's gonna be a sleeper that not many people are gonna remember as good, but I think they could potentially win the Big 12.
Yeah, I think those 3 teams are the big 3 in the Big 12. But I think TCU and Kansas State are definitely right behind them, and if everything goes right, they could be right up there.
I like Baylor. I don't think Baylor's gonna win, but I think they're gonna be on the upping. I like Coach Rule. I think he's gonna get this defense figured out. Offense will be fine.
Not this year.
I think they'll be better than people think.
I think the pro-style offense they're going to run this year is
It's gonna
going
be-
to hurt them.
Really?
Yeah, I think it will.
I think it's
I liked their offense. They scored a lot of points, and if their defense can't stop anybody, you need to score.
But I think that's the thing is I think the pro style is going to open up more things because it's not going to be just run, gunning down the field, a read option, all that crap. It's going to actually be an offense, and so these guys will actually have to play the quarterback spot. And I just think it's going to make the guys better players, which will lead to better defense because the defense will have more time off the field and not having to get on every 35 seconds when another touchdown's thrown.
Yeah, Matt Rule's a really good
I love what he's
defensive-minded
doing.
coach.
Yeah.
I don't know. They could be on the up.
I don't think he'll be. I don't think they're in that group of 3 or 5. But I just think they're the next team under it. Is what I'm saying. I
They're
guess.
still
Okay.
trying to recover from all those scandals.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to hurt recruits and all that. But yeah.
Let's move on to the disappointing team now.
Mine's Texas Tech. I just think it's because they're used to Patrick Mahomes. They're going to struggle to find offensive consistency. But, I mean, yeah, some Red Raider fans like Mahomes. They've had Mahomes, Michael Crabtree. So they've had their good days. I think this is one of their bad ones.
Yeah, I also don't like Texas Tech this year, but my disappointing team is Oklahoma. I think that Texas and Oklahoma State have a better year and make it to the Big 12 championship, and Oklahoma's going to leave pretty disappointed not being in the Big 12 championship game.
My disappointing team's Baylor. I just don't think in year 1 they will turn anything around. I like Matt Rule. Could possibly change it in the future, but not this season.
I don't really have a disappointing team. I have most teams doing better than what they're expected. I have a lot of 9-win teams, but I'll say Oklahoma State since I have them at 9-3, and it's not bad, but that I have them finishing 4th in the conference, and I don't think that's what they expect. So let's move on to a player who deserves a bigger spotlight. Jason, what do you got?
I hinted at it when we were going through the team. Mason Rudolph, I love how good he is, but he does not get enough love for how good the quarterbacks are this year. I love Mason Rudolph. I think he'll be a stud in the NFL, and I think he'll be a stud this year.
Yeah, I also have Mason Rudolph. Definitely on a national scale. Not a lot of people are talking about him, but he's definitely going to be a first-round pick in the NFL, possibly a top 5, top 10 pick too. Not a lot of people are talking about him on the national stage, and I think they should be.
Don't sleep on Will Greer. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, my God. Is that actually your guy?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I like Chris Warren. Now that Deontay Foreman is gone, I think he'll become a star behind this offensive line. So let's move on to
I like that.
let's move on to a coach on the hottest seat.
I think mine's just like, it's not even like that it's hot, it's just kind of obvious because he's terrible. I went David Beatty. It might not even be his fault. It could be the players on his team from Kansas. There's just one stat that just kind of makes the case for him to be gone. He's 2-22 all the time. 2 wins in 3 years.
Wow.
That's not enough to get it. I wouldn't keep
It's
it.
kind of
Coach.
impressive.
he went winless his first year, then I forget how, but it's 2 in 3 years. And I know he went winless his first year. I think he struggles again. Finally, Kansas gets rid of him.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
That's what
I think mine's got to be Cliff Kingsbury from Texas Tech. I think they definitely take a step back this year, and he could definitely be on the hot seat.
I have the same thing.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury, he even admitted that his job was on the line this year. So let's move on to the best pro prospect. Jason, what do you say?
The same guy that deserves a bigger spotlight for me. Mason Rudolph, excellent size, powerful arm, and solid mobility. He really possesses a feel for the position, good mechanics, and poise. I've watched some of his film from last year, and I just really like how calm he is in the pocket. He reminds me of Dak Prescott just in how he doesn't get flustered. He can just really stand in there and make his plays, make his reads, all that good stuff. So I like Rudolph a lot as an NFL prospect.
Yeah, mine's also Mason Rudolph. Behind Sam Darnold, I think he's the second best NFL quarterback prospect next year.
I really like Malik Jefferson from Texas. Great all-around linebacker, can rush the passer and just make plays all around. Quick guy. At the next level, he needs to get a little bit stronger and bigger, but we'll have a good season. He's a lock for a first round.
Yeah, I thought everyone would say Malik Jefferson here. I think he's the best out of all of them. Another guy to look at is Orlando Brown, an offensive tackle from Oklahoma. I think he's the second best lineman behind McGlinchey.
All right, so let's just go around. Who's in the first ever Big 12 championship and who wins it? I've got Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma wins.
I have TCU and Oklahoma. I have Oklahoma winning.
Okay.
Oklahoma and West Virginia. Oklahoma wins.
I have Oklahoma State and Texas, and I think Oklahoma State wins.
All right, there you have it. So the state of Oklahoma wins the Big 12 championship, and Oklahoma State the only one that's different here.
So do you guys college football playoff?
I do not have a Big 12 team. In the
I
college
do
football
not
playoff.
either.
I think if
You have them going like 12-1 then, right?
yeah,
I just
if they do get the 12-1 and the championship, I could see them getting in, especially if they, because the college football playoff committee is emphasizing that the Big 12 got a championship game. They definitely did, and a one-loss team that should probably get in. But my only concern is the eye test. I think Ohio State from the Big Ten will have a better eye test and may not win the championship, so they could maybe get in.
You know, I just think that, like Dylan said, college football committee is very big on having conference champion, and they made sure the Big 12 got one, so now they do. And I think Oklahoma's going to play there, but I guess just stay tuned for the episode to see if they make the college football playoff.
Ooh. All right.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Leave them hanging. I like it.
Exactly. So what's coming up? We've got a wide receivers edition tomorrow, and then we're taking a break for the weekend. But we'll be back on Monday, and we'll be putting out some more fantasy football. We'll be doing the SEC, a big one that's going to be very fun with Alabama and all those other great teams, and really NFL training camp. Just getting up started away. We'll probably get some more NFL stuff going for you. And like I said, college football playoff episode coming. So lots of good stuff coming up these next few weeks.
Yeah, make sure you tune in tomorrow for our wide receiver edition of Fantasy Football. And we have plenty of fantasy football stuff coming up for you guys. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see all that. Check the polls on our Twitter account. Our Twitter account is in the description. And vote on who you think will win the Big 12 championship. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you tomorrow.